in Phobos 2. Now, approximately a month or so after launch, Phobos 1 disappeared. The Russians lost it. Now, they attributed this loss to a combination of computer and human error.
But the story that subsequently emerged is far more chilling. Russian researchers went public, claiming a shadowy, unidentified craft may have destroyed Phobos 1 before going on to eliminate Phobos 2 in a startling sequence of events captured on film. Just before vanishing forever, Phobos 2 photographed what might be a gigantic alien spaceship with bad intentions. Broadcast on Russian television and described as a thin ellipse, the image resembles a needle or a dagger aimed at the Martian moon. Whatever its true shape, it is estimated to be larger than any craft mankind has conceived of.
I'm talking about 25 kilometers in length and 1.5 kilometers in diameter. Now, according to Glavcosmos, the Russian agency at that time, this object or something turned toward their spacecraft and rammed it, knocked it out of orbit.
The American defense establishment curiously remained silent about the incident, perhaps because American probes have reportedly been destroyed near Mars as well.
But we do know for certain that several unmanned missions, spacecraft missions to Mars that had been launched by NASA, that we lost several. And these were expensive missions that as they got closer to Mars, suddenly they just stopped operating. It didn't happen just once, it happened at least 2 times where we lost billion-dollar spacecraft for unknown reasons, and NASA still has never come forward with what they know really happened.
Is NASA withholding information about a dangerous alien presence operating around Mars? Recent photographs taken by the Mars Curiosity rover suggest a UFO similar to what seemingly destroyed Russian and perhaps US space probes might still be patrolling the Martian skies. Earlier this year, the rover's cameras captured an almost identical cylindrical-shaped UFO as the one Phobos 2 photographed back in 1989, right before it was obliterated. This time, the cylinder appears to be rocketing over the planet, remaining in view for roughly 10 minutes before disappearing. Researchers first believed the moving image resulted from the camera shutter staying open, producing a time-lapse effect. But upon examination, the shutter speed was normal. Alarmingly, some military insiders say the US government is keenly aware there's a real ET threat facing us.
We were aware there was a possibility of an unknown presence, possibly alien, extraterrestrial, near the Earth.
John Brandenburg is the former deputy manager of the Clementine mission, a classified operation designed to map and investigate all corners of the moon.
It was a photo reconnaissance mission, basically to check out if someone was building bases on the moon that we didn't know about. Were they expanding them?
Brandenburg says Clementine's lunar photos were analyzed by an elite Defense Department team with the highest security clearance.
They basically kept to themselves and just did their work. And we were told not to interfere with them unless we had a special reason. So only the higher-ups from the Naval Research Lab went up there.
But Brandenburg recalls a previous screening he did have with top military brass, who were studying riveting footage showing UFOs navigating away from a laser-like weapon being fired upon them.
There I am sitting in this room full of retired Army and Air Force generals and a few admirals, and we're watching what looks like a firefight in space. The most senior general there, an Army general, turned to me and said, "Where do you think they're from?" And I said, "I don't know, sir. I've heard they're from 40 light years from here." And his comment was, "Long supply lines." When an Army general says long supply lines, he's already thinking of, how do I deal with these people from far away? How do I make them go back to where they came from? The reaction of numerous space defense officials who I watched these movies with was fear and astonishment.
It's NASA footage like this, showing UFOs flying so close to our planet, and the veil of secrecy he witnessed during Clementine's mapping of the lunar surface that prompted Brandenburg to begin searching for proof-positive photos of aliens on the moon. Once he saw the main structure depicted on the cover of ULO's, Unidentified Lunar Objects Revealed in NASA Photography, he knew he had hit pay dirt.
Of all the pictures I've seen from the moon that show possible structures, the most impressive is a picture of a miles-wide rectilinear structure. This looks unmistakably artificial, and it shouldn't be there. As somebody in the space defense community, I look on any such structure on the moon with great concern because it isn't ours. There's no way we could have built such a thing. It means someone else is up there.
When Dr. Brandenburger said that the general or the higher official naval guy said long supply lines, that was a big statement. That's them thinking about war immediately. Like, he even says the first thing that this guy thought of was to fight them. That's just what they've been trained to do. That's their mindset. So, and these are the people that are leading these missions or whatever, operations. So it's kind of a concern that they're so warmongering and that they cannot think outside of that. Like, they can't even imagine it not being a threat. Honestly, I think that thing that shot down the Phobos craft, which if you go back and look, it had like a tail on it. That craft shooting through space, it looked like it had a cockpit and a tail. It kind of looked like a really long MiG. If you take the profile of a MiG like 21 or something like that fighter plane, and then stretched it really far out. I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm just saying that in appearance-wise, it had the shape of a really long jet fighter, a ridiculously long jet fighter, kind of like Star Wars. That would have had been some like Star Wars giant ship type of thing. But it just goes to show that what their mentality is, and it's a shame. But it ends up coming down to us for what to do about this sort of stuff, and that's why all these people are leaking it to the public. Richard C. Hoagland had talked about this, and a lot of other people had talked about this. So we'll get back to the photos now. And you see how similar some of this stuff is, like, right away. And they get, he goes through the photos by age. So, like, the photos get better as we go, as the different missions go. And the NASA photography slide number is at the top. So you can go back to, like, NASA and request this photo. But apparently we're not allowed to get high-resolution pictures, and that's kind of what the whole point of this is. Well, not the whole point, but a lot of what these people are all talking about is that we are not able to access the true original resolutions. Even if we have the slide number here of the actual place to go for NASA, we're still not allowed to get it. So here we have, we'll just start on the right, this weird outcropping with the shadow underneath. And you see whenever he highlights it that there's these two little buildings off to the left that are more obvious. But that right away looks like the diamond mine. It looks exactly on the top left there. It looks like that. And then we have all these other structures. And you're welcome to pause it and go and look. And I'll try to link some of this stuff. You might need to like email me or message me on Patreon or something to get the link to download this stuff, just so I don't put it out there and it immediately gets taken down. That will probably be a bit smarter of thing to do. But okay, so we're moving on to page 18 here, and we have this like it definitely looks like a spacecraft. There's a bubble canopy. It's triangular. It's got a little nozzle on the front, almost like a sensor. It kind of looks like a speedboat or a jet ski. But the back of it, you see like a raising of a tail type of thing. It really reminds me of one of the race car crafts in like the Star Wars where they have the racing scene on the desert planet. So yeah. You see that some of these are pretty grainy and blurry and stuff, and you're like, maybe this is something, maybe it's not. After he highlights it, it is a lot easier to see, though. This one on the far right, though, is a lot easier to see. I mean, you can see that 90-degree angle right there, and the circle and the dish. It looks exactly like a satellite dish with these 90-degree angles. And here we have more triangular type of things. Another mining circle with like shafts and like a conveyor belt going into it. Again, it looks exactly like that diamond mine with these conveyor belts. What is this one on second to left here? It looks like a castle, like a concrete castle. An old medieval castle. Actually, a lot of medieval type of stuff, you do see like a reoccurring theme of that. Now that I mention that it looks like a stronghold. And there was a group of people who allegedly were the first people to fire a rocket into space that built these massive medieval stronghold fortresses, facilities, even underground factories with slave labor, and they made it out of concrete. And the concrete they made, we still can't figure out how they made it. And those people were the Nazis, and it always comes back to the Nazis, right? Of this weird connections and technology. Here you see what looks like a tunnel entrance. You can definitely see the shadow of the inside, and that there's open area, and it looks like equipment on the outside. Maybe even a crane. It kind of does look like there's a giant crane over there. And these two tanks, they look like oxygen tanks or oil tanks or some sort of giant tanks for storage. Another blank page. There's a lot of blank pages. So here we get to some more structures. And this is like the earliest Apollo missions that they're already photographing this stuff. Some of them are a lot clearer than others. Like on the far left and the far right, those stick out to me a lot more. That looks like an airport. The one on the far right looks like a World War II airport. There's a air traffic control tower. Here's a hangar. There's another hangar. There's another hangar. That's just what it looks like to me. I think at the beginning of the book, I was trying to skim through it to not read every single word of the intro. But earlier, I think he says that we can't really say for sure like what any of these objects are. These are anomalous type of things. They don't fit in with the geography of the moon, and that's part of the mystery. And some of them arguably could fit in with the structure of the moon or the like geography of the moon, but others do not. And if any of these are real facilities, and there's a lot of them, we're about to go through like 20 pages. I think that's about how many there are for us to see. So if any of them are real, then that's a big deal. Here we have on the second to left, kind of looks like that's a square. Definitely looks like a square shaft going into the earth with these facilities in the front and piping running all by it. Different types of piping running all around it, and maybe even some tracks. With this one, you see this weird stingray shape right here. That's a pretty clear. As soon as you look at it, you see that stingray shape. The photo to the right, we have more of these pipes. And again, you can see some of them stick up over the ground, and it's hard to tell if that's a shadow from the building or a crater. Kind of looks like a shadow from the building. The one on the far left, I mean, that's a weird looking alien craft right there. It looks like one. It's got a double tail, and it has a bubble cockpit again, and kind of saucer shaped a little bit, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little lights on the side. So that's pretty interesting. With these, it's a little bit like this might be pareidolia. I do see the tracks though. There's a lot of tracks going through here. That could be pipes, tracks, who knows. A lot of empty pages again, scrolling through those. Here we go with like, if this is a impact crater, then why are these weird things inside of it? And that's a perfectly square hole inside of the crater. Keep on seeing these square shafts coming down. And on the right, I'm trying to make sense of what this is. I think this is the same picture from different angles. Some of these are different angles, like on the far right and far left. I think they may be different angles of the same type of stuff. And here we have some more. Trying to see, ooh, the one second to the right looks like a pretty clear example of another tunnel entrance. And far right, again, a bunch of pipes. With this one on the left, the middle left, second to left, it's even clearer that this is like protruding out and is a circular pipe protruding out at an angle and goes in, and you have these weird pipe track things. I think they're pipe because they're reflecting light, going on the edge of the rim of the crater, just like he was saying. And from somebody that spent a lot of time near the Permian Basin and in Texas and near Houston and oil refining, oil infrastructure, this looks like pipes. This looks like refining pipes or some sort of chemical industrial pipes. And on the far left, they have this weird pointy thing. It almost looks like a drill head and different crafts. We have some zoomed in ones on this one, so that's good to have a close-up one. Again, this could be pareidolia on I think the one that draws my eye the most. Well, I don't know. These actually are pretty good. Because thinking back to the whole... Let me see if I can pull up the ancient buildings. Or I'll just pull up the modern one. You compare that, and it does actually kind of look similar. Look at that again and imagine these pictures blurred. And then go back to this. And if you see this right here, this little building, that looks pretty clear. And same thing with this little thing coming out of it. And all of these actually look pretty good as far as facilities. So we're starting to get into the weirder, newer ones. The one on the top left is so strange. Look at that weird tentacle thing coming out of that blob. And it's even got like another tendril coming out the side and like wrapping into the ground. There's a scene, I'm pretty sure it's making fun of an older movie, but there's been a cartoon that had a scene of like a giant eyeball with a tentacle like that landed on the earth and was eating people's brains. And I think that was making fun of a movie where that was a thing. But that it looks like the monster from that, where has like a giant eyeball with tendrils coming out of it. But you look at even the original photo and like it stands out. Like, how could that? That's obviously an object. That's not a crater. And you can see it coming up, and there's even a shadow like next to it from underneath it. Again, like these shadows give away the dimensionality of these objects, that they're 3 dimensions and not just 2 dimensions. Trying to see this on that one. I see that curved piece right there. And then I guess that's the pipe right there. Yeah, I can see it. And then again, this is the type of stuff that you got to be worried about with pareidolia, because it wasn't until I like really look at this like that I see it. But I mean, it does look like it's going over the ground. It doesn't look like it's a piece of the ground to me right there. And especially this top one. This one on the bottom here, I think they're next to each other, actually. Okay, we'll go with the bottom left one first. The pipe right here, it looks like that is clearly a pipe or a bridge, like going from one side to the other. And some of my favorite ones are whenever there's like a pipe like this going into a mountain, and you can see it coming out the other side of the mountain too. And I think we're going to see one of those later. But this is actually the same photo, these 2 things on the bottom. Actually, all 3 of these, top right, bottom right, and bottom left, are all 3 the same picture. All structures in the same one. So you see this weird craft. I would call it a craft. It kind of looks like a whale, or like if you were to mix a jet plane with a whale and then put 2 little fins on the bottom of it. That's kind of what I see here, is an open mouth intake and then some fins on the bottom. But you see like some sort of thing. Okay, it goes off and then down at a 90-degree angle. 90-degree angles and circles are like the opposite of what happens in nature. So that's pretty interesting. But it looks like it's on a whole platform. Like there's all this stuff underneath it. That looks like a platform right there. And this 90-degree thing going down reminds me of Kennedy Space Center. We'll see if we can pull up that picture again. Or was it Kennedy Space Center over here on the top right? That whenever they have space shuttles, they have the little arms that come and attach to it, right? And hold it in place at an angle. That's what this reminds me of, is one of those. And all of these little things on the top are all attached to that. And then we have this pipeline on the right. Very interesting. That doesn't look like a crater at all to me. That's clearly some sort of protrusion coming from the top. And it looks like it's got all this stuff attached to it. Cording and hoses and everything that we put on our space shuttles when they're about to launch. Some of these look like snails to me. This looks like a snail on the top left. I can't really say what that is. It does look like it could be a facility. The bottom 2, This looks like an observation deck, almost with windows, and it's hovering over this giant emptiness. And you can see the shadow underneath it and the piping tube attaching to it. And then looks like this is, again, some sort of overhanging walkway or engineering industrial type of platform over these holes. And we have, I don't know what that is. It looks interesting, though. It definitely looks like it is a facility. Some of these could just be rocks. They do look like they're like they could be structures, though. They're definitely jutting out. The bottom right one and the bottom left are the ones that really strike me. The top right is just too blurry for me, but if it is there, that's crazy. The bottom right, though, it looks like a giant craft. It does not look small at all, and it looks like it maybe had been there for a long time. Over here on the bottom left, that looks like bunkers to me with a bunch of piping. So, look like concrete bunkers. Again, here we have these towers coming out and snail-looking stuff. This is a really strange-looking craft. Kind of looks like a bat wing, or like some sort of flying craft. The platform that this top left one is on, I like it because you can see the structural pieces holding it up. I see all these different pieces holding it up on this one. And then again, a square type of entrance hole into a subterranean area. More very blurred structures. Again, a lot of the better ones got taken off for some reason. I found one of them in the TV show that got taken off that I will show you. And here we have another 90-degree angle. That is like an X, or it does kind of look like an X or a Y. It looks like a Y with some of it coming off the side. Yeah, feel free to pause and look, or to find it, to download it and look at it. This weird bright ring thing is so strange on this far left one. It's like a tube with a ring around it and a facility, and a walkway type of thing. A lot of these look very industrial. The two in the middle here look like the mining facility, the terraced mining facility to me. And the far right looks like a mining facility with a bunch of structures all over it. Again, on the right, we have this giant wagon wheel type of thing next to structures, and you can see the shadows next to them to show how large they are. And these shadows look small, but they're actually mega huge, like incredibly massive structures for us to be able to see them. Far left, again, castle type of structure. Some more crafts, looks like engineering type of stuff. I really like the one in the middle, the red one. I wish that we could see that with a higher resolution. I know I've seen this picture bigger, and this giant antenna thing on the top that goes back, it looks really cool. It looks like a snowmobile with an antenna on the top, like a lunar snowmobile. The two on the right look like definitely like structures. Even Mayan pyramid. The middle right looks like a Mayan pyramid to me. And yeah, is this a swastika? It almost kind of looked like it, but this little edge right here goes the wrong direction. But this is like 3/4 of a swastika, it looks like. And all of this stuff like going towards it. I don't know what that is. Piping or building or what. But so middle right, we have another stronghold keep looking thing. And next to a circular, it almost looks like a power plant that's like taken out of focus, you know. I've definitely seen power plants in that shape before. And the far left, it does look like tracks, you know. It looks like was like a whole facility of tracks moving around. Like a really, really far away photo of that.